Well, hello, and welcome to week three lecture for ORGL 5005, Leadership and Organization. This is the first of 2 weeks on leading others. This particular lecture is adapted from the Team Innovation Profile by Inkscape Publishing. Let's start with a little puzzle. Let's get to the right slide first. Let's start with a little puzzle I'd like to pose to my classroom students. How do 5 people make a pizza? Well, typically this leads to a fairly lively conversation with a number of interesting ways of getting the job done. One particularly innovative group of college graduate students decided that they would draw straws to see who went to the pizza while the rest sat around and drank beer. For what it's worth, the loser in that lottery decided he would simply call dominoes and then join in the drinking immediately. Very effective teamwork, I suppose. Well, what most often comes back are a lot of process-centric role definitions. Someone takes the order, someone else assembles the ingredients, another bakes, etc., etc. After a number of these approaches are described and defended, I ask the question, what if somebody gets sick and can't work that day? Well, of course, we would all chip in and cover for that person is the usual answer. Uh, Fine, good teamwork, filling in for an ailing colleague like that. But suppose I then ask, that person I'm going to start over. All right, we're picking this back up again. Well, hello, and welcome to week three of ORGL 5005. This lecture is the first on 2 weeks of on leading others. The lecture itself is adapted from the Team Innovations Profile by Inkscape Publishing. Let's start with a little puzzle I'd like to pose to my classroom students. How do 5 people make a pizza? Well, typically this leads to a lively conversation with a number of interesting ways of getting the job done. One particularly innovative group of graduate students decided they would draw straws to see who went to the pizzeria while the rest drank beer. Well, for what it's worth, the loser in that particular lottery decided he would simply call dominoes and then join the drinking immediately. Nothing like a creative team, I always say. Well, in actuality, what most often comes back are a lot of process-centric role definition. Someone takes the order, someone else assembles the ingredients, another bakes, etc., etc. After a number of these approaches are described and defended, I ask a question, what happens if somebody gets sick and can't work that particular day? Well, of course, we would all chip in and cover for that person, right? Good. Sounds good. Teamwork, filling in for an ailing colleague. But suppose that person is constantly late or missing from work with a very flimsy excuse. Well, that's different, they say. That's totally unfair to the rest of us, and some disciplinary action needs to be taken. So at this point, my question to them and to you is this. What is missing from this conversation? Well, I won't keep you hanging. The missing piece is the customer who just wants a nice hot pizza just the way they ordered it. Too bad about your missing team member. Just get me my pizza. Make sense? Well, what I'm going to share with you today is a different sort of teamwork model. Inkscape's Teamwork Dimensions Profile. It discusses and focuses on how each of us, each in our own way, approaches problem solving. The model begins with 2 perpendicular axes, just as you see here on the slide. The vertical axis has spontaneity with being methodical, contrasting the two. No one is 100% either way, but we certainly know people who tend to approach tasks one way or the other. The horizontal axis is conceptual, seeing things in terms of the concept rather than the details, with being normative, seeing things in terms of how they relate to other things that are well known. Again, No one is 100% either way. Each of us has some greater or lesser tendency in each of these four approaches. So, what's that mean? Well, if we were to think of each of us as a blend, with some approaches more dominant than others, then we might end up with a mapping that looks like this. People who are highly spontaneous and highly conceptual tend to be what we think of as creative, which makes sense. We all know people who, and maybe even ourselves, who are constantly, spontaneously coming up with new ideas, concepts, and they have a motto. Here's another idea. The next group in the model are the highly spontaneous, highly normative people. We call them advancers. These folks can easily keep pace with the creative types and can relate those ideas to other aspects of the business. This is because they understand the norms of the business. The advancer knows where to take the next idea, who needs to see it, what needs to happen. Their motto is, I know where to go with this. The third group are the highly conceptual, highly methodical folks we call refiners. These people totally understand the underlying concepts of the idea, and because they think methodically, they can in essence disassemble the idea, identify its flaws, and figure out how to make it better or more workable. This is because they bring a dose of reality. Refiners are not always the most popular people on the team, but their work is essential in order to get good ideas into becoming viable, successful solutions. The refiner's motto is, hold on a minute, we need to fix a few things. The fourth group in our model are the highly methodical, highly normative people we call executors. These are the folks that ultimately get the job done. Remember my pizza question? Executors are the people who make sure the customer's pizza is delivered piping hot, on time, and with the right toppings. They may not be so concerned with big ideas, where they fit in or how they can be better. They just want to get the job done. The executor's motto, just tell me what you want me to do. So, the point of this exercise is to get us thinking about team processes in the larger terms of what needs to be done in order to get a good idea into reality and solve a particular problem. So how does this actually work? Well, consider this workflow. When a team is given a challenge, ideas are needed. The creative types bubble forth with ideas, seemingly new ones every minute. The advancers take their role of finding ways to move those ideas forward. Things slow down when the refiner gets involved to make sure the best ideas are perfected before they go to the executor for implementation. So what can possibly go wrong, right? Well, a couple of things. What happens when you're working against a deadline? Well, first of all, the creators and the executors speak a very different language. When the executor says, just tell me what you want me to do, the creator, who is often the notional leadership role in one of these things, replies with a new idea. Hey, next, the team can get caught in the trap of the perfect being the enemy of the good. In a vain attempt to come up with the most perfect solution to the challenge, teams will sometimes spend too much time in the create, advance, refine cycle at the expense of the poor executor who ends up trying to put everything together at the last minute. Well, what's needed is a facilitator role. Someone who understands the teamwork innovation cycle, the contribution each role makes to the end product, and keeps an eye on the schedule so things keep moving along to make sure the correct pizza is delivered hot and on time to the right customer. Notionally, the facilitator is someone who is comfortable in each of the dimensions, and that's great if you have someone with that profile. But in reality, any team member who understands the process and can step away from their comfortable role for the benefit of the team can facilitate moving through the cycle. So, Can you think of how that might work in an actual team situation? The last point I want to cover is the idea of team dynamics, as described by Bruce Tuckman with a later addition by Mary Ann Jensen. Tuckman's group development model. Well, here we go. Forming. This is a very polite stage where everybody on the team has good intentions and is starting to get to know one another. A lot of smiles and handshakes and all that sort of thing. Storming. Well, this is an inevitable and, in all honesty, an unavoidable stage where issues come up that must be addressed before the team can succeed. Storming. Somebody being late. Somebody missing. Somebody can't help this week. They got to take care of the kids. They got sick. Who knows? Doesn't matter. You got to get past that. You have to storm through those things in order to move forward. Norming. Well, this is simply how the team recovers from the storm. It's a new norm that allows team to move forward. As problems of one sort or another come up, there will be more sort of sub-cycles of this storming and norming situation taking place. Performing. There we go. This is where everybody wants to be. Performing the required tasks. Delivering that pizza hot and on time. Adjourning. This was added by Mary Ann Jensen. It refers to what happens after the team has completed its work. Sometimes this is called an after-action review or lessons learned. In any case, it's an opportunity to bring things to a close in an orderly manner that sets the stage for future team assignments. Well, that's all for this week. See the next slide for some final notes. Just a reminder, don't forget those deadlines on Wednesday and Sunday. Work hard, learn a lot. Thank you.